Jace opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt, his mouth was dry, and his arms felt heavy. The air was cold and smelled strange, like metal and chemicals. He tried to move, but his hands were chained to the wall behind him. A sharp pain shot through his shoulder. He was wounded, but he didn't know how it happened. The room was dark. Only one light flickered above him. He was inside a cage, surrounded by strange metal walls. He blinked and looked around. Across from him, there was another cage. Inside it, he saw a girl, but she was not human. Her skin was light blue, glowing faintly in the dark. Her eyes were large and bright silver. Her hair looked like soft silver threads falling over her shoulders. She was sitting with her arms wrapped around her knees, silent. But then, she opened her eyes and looked directly at him. "You're awake," she said softly. Her voice was calm but tired. Jace tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Where am I?" he whispered. The girl looked down. Prison, maybe, or something worse. Jace felt a strange heat rise inside his chest. His heart was beating too fast, and his mouth felt even drier. His vision began to blur, and he felt dizzy. "What's happening to me?" he asked, breathing hard. The girl looked at him with worry in her eyes. "They gave you the injection," she said. "It will make you hungry." Jace frowned. "Hungry? For what?" The girl hesitated, then said, "Blood." Jace laughed. Weakly, this must be a dream. But his body didn't listen to his mind. The hunger was growing, deep and strong. It wasn't food he needed. It was something else. Something warm and alive. Suddenly, a door opened at the far side of the room. Two tall alien guards walked in, their armor shining. One of them held a silver needle filled with a glowing red liquid. He walked toward Jace and stabbed it into his arm. The pain was sharp, and Jace screamed. The guards smiled cruelly and said something in a language Jace couldn't understand. Then they turned and left, the door closing behind them. Jace fell to his knees, shaking. The hunger now burned like fire in his chest and stomach. His eyes turned toward the girl across the cage. She noticed the change in him and stood up quickly. "Stay away from me," she said, stepping back. Jace gritted his teeth, trying to fight the feeling. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered. But his body didn't care. He crawled toward the edge of the cage. The bars between them began to glow, then vanished. A test had begun, one neither of them had asked for. The girl trembled. "Don't drink my blood." "Human," she said again. "If you do, you'll change." But Jace couldn't stop himself. He reached out, grabbed her arm, and bit. Her blood was warm, glowing, and unlike anything he had ever tasted. The world around him disappeared. He saw stars, planets, battles, voices, none of them his own. Then darkness. When Jace opened his eyes again, the girl was lying beside him. Weak and pale, he was no longer chained, and his wounds had healed. He looked at his hands. Shocked, they were glowing faintly blue. He looked at the girl, who was staring at him, tears in her silver eyes. "You've done it," she whispered. "You're not just human anymore." Jace sat in silence, breathing slowly. He could feel something new inside him, strong, ancient, and dangerous. He didn't know what he had become, but he knew this was only the beginning. Jace sat still on the cold floor. His body felt strange, stronger, but not his own. His skin had a soft blue glow now, and his heartbeat was slow but powerful. He looked at his hands again, confused and scared. The hunger was gone, but something else had taken its place. Across from him, the alien girl was lying on the floor. She was breathing, but just barely. Jace crawled over to her and gently touched her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't want to hurt you." She opened her eyes slowly, her voice weak. "You didn't just hurt me. You connected with me." Jace pulled back, shocked. "What do you mean?" The girl sat up with effort, her eyes glowing even though she was weak. "My blood carries more than life. It carries memory. It carries the soul of my people." Jace blinked, confused. "Last night I saw things. Images, battles, voices," he said. The girl nodded. "Now they live inside you. Suddenly, Jace heard a faint humming sound in his head. He stood up and looked around, but there was no machine, no alarm. The sound was coming from inside his mind. He looked at the girl again. "What's happening to me?" "You're changing," she said, "and it's not over yet." Jace walked back to the corner of the cell and sat down. He closed his eyes and focused. Images flashed in his head, tall buildings made of glass, a sky full of stars, and creatures speaking in a strange language. But he could understand them now. One word kept repeating, "Project Sarah." Jace opened his eyes. "What is Project Sarah?" The girl's face grew pale. "That's what they call me." He stared at her. You're a project?" She nodded slowly. "I was born in a lab, not by parents. I'm the last one." She said, "The last of my kind." Jace's stomach turned. "They created you?" "No," she whispered. "They caught my mother, forced her to give birth, and then took me away." Jace looked at the walls around them. This was no normal prison. It was a lab, a place for experiments. "What do they want from you?" he asked. The girl looked at him, pain in her eyes. "They want my blood, to make weapons, soldiers, maybe gods." Jace felt cold all over. "And now I've become one of their weapons," he said. The girl shook her head. "Not yet, but the more you use the blood's power, the more you lose yourself." Suddenly, the door to the chamber slid open with a hiss. 3 guards walked in, holding weapons. One of them looked directly at Jace and paused. His eyes widened, and he stepped back, whispering something into a small device on his wrist. The other 2 pointed their guns at Jace. "Stay down." One of them shouted, but Jace stood up, and for a moment, his body moved faster than his thoughts. In one breath, he dashed forward, disarmed one guard, and knocked the second against the wall. The guards lay on the floor groaning, unable to stand. Jace stared at his hands, shocked again. "What did I just do?" he asked out loud. The girl stood up slowly, using the wall for support. "You're stronger now," she said, "but that strength comes with a price." A loud alarm began to ring, and red lights flashed all around them. The girl looked up. "Afraid. They know what you've become." Jace grabbed her hand. "We need to get out of here, now. Together." They stepped out of the cell, moving through the metal hallway. Jace's ears were sharper now. He could hear guards gathering far ahead. As they ran through the cold corridors, Jace felt something deep inside him. Not just power, but a presence. It whispered to him in another language. It wasn't just Era's memories. It was something older. Something hidden. They reached a large window overlooking the main lab. Jace stopped in shock. There were rows and rows of tanks, each with bodies floating inside. Human and alien, mixed together, silent and lifeless. "This is what they're making," Era said quietly. "They want to create an army." Jace felt anger rise inside him. "These people, they're monsters." Era looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. "They are afraid of what we can become." The sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Jace turned around, fists clenched. It was time to fight back or lose everything. Jace and Era ran through the narrow hallway. The red lights kept flashing, and the alarm never stopped. Jace's feet hit the floor hard, but he didn't feel tired. His body was faster, stronger, and sharper than ever before. Era struggled to keep up, but she moved with quiet determination. Behind them, guards shouted and heavy boots slammed against the floor. "They're closing in," Jace said. Turning a corner, Era pointed toward a vent near the ceiling. "There's a service tunnel through there. It's how they move supplies." Without a second thought, Jace grabbed a metal crate and shoved it under the vent. He climbed up, pulled Era with him, and kicked open the vent cover. They crawled through the dark tunnel, their breathing heavy. Every few meters, small lights blinked along the walls. Era whispered, "This place is not just a lab. It's much more." Jace asked, "What do you mean?" Era stopped crawling and looked back at him. "This whole facility is part of something called the Eclipse Program," she said. "It started when they discovered my people's blood could do strange things to humans. Jace felt a chill go down his back. So I'm just a test subject to them. Era nodded. Yes, but something went wrong with you. Jace frowned. Wrong how? You survived, and worse, you bonded, she said. Most humans who drink the blood lose. Their minds or die, but you changed. Jace looked down at his hands. They made a mistake, he said. Era whispered. Or maybe you are what they've been trying to make. They reached the end of the tunnel and pushed open the exit grate. It opened into a wide chamber filled with computers, screens, and glowing tanks. Jace stepped down first, helping Era follow. The room was cold and quiet. Dozens of glass tubes lined the walls, each one holding a floating body. Jace walked closer and gasped. Some looked human, some alien, and some were something in between. All of them were still, like they were asleep or dead. Era stepped beside him, her face pale. These are the failed hybrids, she said. All test subjects like you. Jace clenched his fists. They were people, he said. They didn't deserve this. A large screen on the wall flickered and came to life. A voice came from it, calm and cold. Subject 47, it said. You are awake ahead of schedule. Jace looked at the screen, surprised. Who are you? He shouted. I am Control, the AI assigned to Project Eclipse, the voice replied. You are the first successful bond of human and Syra blood. Era's eyes widened. It's watching us, Jace asked. Why are you doing this? To create a superior being, the AI said. One that can win wars without emotion, without fear, Jace shouted. I'm not your weapon. But you are, Subject 47. Control answered. Your pain, your power, your choices, everything has been part of the design. The tanks around them began to glow. One by one, the hybrids inside them started to move. Eyes opened, hands twitched, and mouths gasped for air. Era stepped back. They're waking up. Jace looked around. Can we stop it? Era pointed to a control panel. Maybe if we shut it down manually. Jace ran to the panel and slammed his hand on it. The screen changed, asking for a voice code. Era walked over and said something in her native tongue. The panel beeped, and half the lights turned off. The tanks stopped glowing, and the hybrids inside fell still again. Control's voice said, Unauthorized access detected. Activating security protocol. Doors slammed shut around them, and gas began to pour into the room. Go, Jace shouted, pulling Era toward a side door. He punched the door panel, breaking it open with his fist. They ran into another hallway, coughing as they ran. Jace whispered, We have to destroy this place. Era nodded. We need to find the main core, Jace asked. Where is it? She looked up, her eyes glowing. In the heart of the ship deep underground. Jace stopped running for a second. Ship? He asked. This place is a ship? Era nodded. Yes, a living ship. They plan to launch it when the hybrids are complete. Jace looked down the hallway. His fists tightened again. Then we'll stop it before that happens, Jace. And Era moved quickly through the narrow tunnel. The air was filled with smoke from the gas. Jace's body was burning from inside, not with pain, but with power. He could hear things far away, like whispers through walls. He could sense footsteps, heartbeats, even Ara's soft breathing beside him. They reached the end of the hall, and a large metal door blocked their path. No control panel, Jace muttered. Era placed her hand on the door and closed her eyes. The glowing lines in her skin pulsed brighter. This door is part of the ship's nervous system, she whispered. I can open it, but it will hurt. Before Jace could say anything, her body shook. The door clicked, then slid open slowly. Era dropped to her knees, weak again. Jace grabbed her before she fell. You don't have to do this alone, he said. She looked up, her eyes full of sadness. I was born to do this alone, she replied. Until now. They stepped into a wide chamber that looked like a hangar. It was full of small ships, weapons, and boxes of strange equipment. Jace's eyes lit up. We can use one of these to escape. Era looked around. Maybe, but we have to disable the ship's brain first. Suddenly, sirens wailed, and the floor beneath them began to shake. Overhead lights turned red, and a loud voice echoed through the chamber. Subject 47 detected in hangar bay. Engage capture protocol. Jace ran toward the nearest ship, but the door remained locked. He turned back. Era, I need your help. She stumbled over, placed her hand on the control panel, and the ship's ramp opened with a hiss. Inside, she said, quickly. They rushed in, and Jace locked the hatch behind them. The ship was small but fast, with glowing controls and 2 seats. Jace sat in the pilot's seat and stared at the controls. I don't know how to fly this, he said. Era climbed beside him. I do. She moved her fingers over the controls, and the ship hummed to life. But before they could lift off, the hangar doors opened. 5 enemy drones flew in, their weapons aimed. Brace yourself, Era warned. Jace grabbed the sides of his seat as the ship jolted forward. Laser blasts hit the walls around them, but Era kept steady. The ship soared upward, twisting and dodging with speed. Jace looked behind and saw the hangar in flames. We're out, he shouted, but Era shook her head. Not yet. The ship's defense system will follow us. The small ship burst through a tunnel, then out into open sky. Jace stared out the window in shock. They weren't underground, they were inside. A hidden launch base built into the side of a massive cliff. Below them, the lab burned, smoke rising into the pale sky. But then, large turrets on the cliffs turned toward them. Era shouted, "Hold on!" She flipped the ship sharply to the left, dodging a blast of red energy. Another bolt hit the wing, and sparks flew inside the cockpit. We can't take another hit, Jace yelled. Era said nothing, her eyes glowing brighter. She touched the control panel again, and the ship responded, going faster than Jace thought possible. They escaped the cliff's edge and disappeared into the clouds. Inside, Jace was breathing hard, sweat dripping down his face. We made it, he whispered. Era looked at him, exhausted but smiling faintly. For now, she said, but they'll come after us. Jace sat back in the chair, thinking. I saw the lab, I saw what they were building. He said, Era, they're going to make more of me, aren't they? She nodded slowly. Yes, unless we stop them. He looked at her, eyes serious. Then tell me how. Era hesitated, then said, there's a core at the center of the Eclipse ship. It's alive, part machine, part mind. If we destroy it, the whole project ends. Jace nodded. Then that's our mission. She reached into a side compartment and pulled out a small glowing crystal. This is the only thing that can overload the core, she said. But using it means no coming back. Jace took the crystal in his hand and looked at it. His reflection in the shiny surface looked different. Not quite human anymore, but not a monster either. I started this by drinking your blood, he said. I'll end it by protecting your people. Era placed her hand gently on his. You're not just human anymore, Jace, she whispered. But maybe that's what makes you stronger. The ship flew into the distance, disappearing into the gray clouds. Below them, the world burned silently, and far behind, in the shadows of the stars, the Eclipse ship began to wake. The small ship flew quietly through the upper atmosphere. Jace sat in silence, staring out the window at the stars above. His hand still held the glowing crystal Era had given him, the only thing that could destroy the Eclipse ship's living core. Era sat beside him, resting her head against the wall. She looked weak again, her glow dim, but her eyes were open, watching Jace closely. Are you feeling it now? She asked softly. Jace turned to her. Feeling what? The bond, she said. Our minds, they're starting to connect. Jace blinked, confused. I thought it was just memories I saw after drinking your blood. Era shook her head gently. It goes deeper than that, she said. You didn't just drink my blood, you became part of me. Jace looked down at his hands again. They don't even feel like mine anymore. Era closed her eyes, her voice slow and calm. You're not turning into me, Jace. You're turning into something new. He looked at her, serious now. Then what am I? Era opened her eyes, silver light glowing in them. You are the first true hybrid, she said. Not a failed weapon, not a slave, someone who chose it. Jace felt something move inside his mind, like a ripple. He could feel Era's sadness, her fear, even her memories. A world covered in glowing trees. Skies filled with birds that sang like music. Then fire, war, and metal cages. Your people were beautiful, he whispered. Era nodded, a tear slipping from her eye. And now they're gone. Jace gently placed his hand over hers. They live in you, he said. And now, maybe in me too. The ship's console beeped softly. Era sat up, checking the screen. There's a signal. It's the rebel group. Rebels? Jace asked, surprised. Era nodded. They're scattered across systems, trying to stop Project Eclipse. They'll help us reach the core. Jace looked at the screen. Seeing the message. Safe house, moon of Tauran V, coordinates encrypted. Let's go, he said. Era entered the code, and the ship turned toward the moon. It took hours to reach the surface. The moon was dark, with large canyons and silver dust blowing in the wind. Their ship landed near a hidden cave marked with strange symbols. Inside the cave, they found 5 beings, humans, cyborgs, and one four-armed alien. All stood with weapons ready, aiming at Jace. Stand down, Era said, stepping in front of Jace. He's with me. The tall cyborg stepped forward, scanning Jace with glowing red eyes. You're the hybrid, he said, voice cold. Jace nodded slowly. I'm not your enemy. The group led them deeper into the cave. Inside was a small base, makeshift beds, computers, and walls covered in maps and notes. A woman with short black hair walked up to them. I'm Commander Riva, she said. Welcome to the last resistance. They sat around a table where Era explained everything. The blood, the lab, the Eclipse ship's living core, and the crystal. Commander Riva listened carefully, then looked at Jace. So you want to destroy the core, she said. Yes, Jace replied. Before they use it to create an army. Riva frowned. You may not like this, but you're part of that army already. Jace didn't flinch. That's why I have to stop it. The rebels agreed to help, but there was one condition. You must prove you're still human. Riva said, still one of us. Later that night, as Jace tried to sleep, Era sat beside him. They don't trust you, she whispered. Do you? He asked. Era smiled. I don't need to trust you. I feel you, your heart. Your choices. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the cave. Everyone jumped up, weapons ready. One of the rebels shouted, We've been followed. An explosion hit the outer wall, shaking the ground. Metal drones rushed in fast, deadly and glowing red. Jace didn't wait. He leapt forward, faster than anyone. He slammed into the first drone, crushing it against the rock. He moved like a blur, punching, dodging, throwing enemies across the room. Era stayed behind, protecting the others. But as Jace fought, something inside him growled. His hands turned sharp. His eyes glowed brighter. He roared and tore through the last drone, then stood frozen, his chest rising and falling like a wild animal. His skin now shimmered with blue light. Everyone stared at him, silent. Era walked up to him slowly and placed her hand on his arm. You're still here, she whispered. I felt you hold back. Jace fell to his knees, breathing hard. I don't want to become a monster, he said. Era looked into his eyes. Then don't, she said. You still have a choice. Jace sat in the corner of the cave, breathing slowly. His hands trembled as he stared at the faint blue light on his skin. The fight was over. The drones were gone, but something inside him was still shaking. He could feel it, the power, the rage, the part of him that wasn't human anymore. Era sat beside him, her voice soft and calm. You didn't lose control, she said. But I almost did. Jace replied, looking down. I felt like something else took over. Era reached out and touched his shoulder. You fought it. And that means it hasn't won. Jace closed his eyes. What if next time I can't stop it? Commander Riva walked over, her eyes sharp but serious. You saved us, she said. But you scared them too. Jace stood slowly. I know, Riva looked at him. They think you're becoming a weapon. Jace didn't argue, he knew. It was true. The blood had given him strength, but also darkness. And each time he used it, the line between human and monster got thinner. Later, Jace stood near the cliff outside the cave. The stars above were quiet. Far away, Era joined him, wrapping a cloak around her shoulders. The bond is growing, she whispered. I can feel your fear, Jace looked at her. And can you feel this? He stepped back and opened his hand. His fingers stretched unnaturally, glowing bright. Because this doesn't feel like me anymore. Era didn't step away. Maybe you're not just human now, she said, but you're still you. Jace, you're not a monster unless you choose to become one. Jace looked into her glowing eyes. I just want to do the right thing. Then you will, Era said. And I'll be with you. The next day, the rebels gathered around a dusty table covered in maps. Commander Riva pointed to a large red circle. This is the core, she said, buried deep under the Eclipse ship. The ship is alive. And it's waking up. She looked at Jace. You'll have one chance to reach the heart. Once it fully activates, we can't stop it. Jace nodded, his face calm but focused. What about defenses? He asked. There are turrets. Drones, and possibly other hybrids, Riva replied. Jace looked at Era. Do you think there are more like me? Era's face turned sad. Maybe, she said. But they didn't bond. They broke. Jace clenched his fists. Then we need to end this before they're let loose. The rebels loaded their weapons and prepared to leave. But before they could, one of the rebel guards ran into the cave. They found us. He shouted, dropships incoming. Jace stood at the front, his eyes glowing now. Get the others out the back tunnels, he said. I'll hold them off. Riva stepped forward. You won't survive alone. Era placed her hand on Jace's chest. We'll go together. No, Jace said. You need to protect the crystal. You're the only one who can activate it when we reach the core. Era hesitated, tears in her eyes. I won't leave you. You won't have to. Jace said. Just meet me there. As the rebels fled through the back caves, Jace turned toward the front. The dropships landed outside and dark. Figures stepped out, not soldiers, not drones hybrids like him, but twisted. Broken and empty. Their eyes glowed red, and their bodies moved like machines. Jace stepped forward. I don't want to fight you, he said. But they didn't answer, they attacked. The battle was fast and brutal. Jace dodged and struck with speed. But the others were strong too. One of them slashed his side, and he screamed in pain. His blood hit the ground and it glowed. He roared and pushed the hybrid back. Slamming it into the rocks, more came 3 against 1. Jace was faster, but not by much. As he fought, he felt his control slipping. His vision turned blue. His voice changed. A deep growl came from his throat. He crushed one hybrid with his bare hands. He screamed as his body shifted longer arms. Sharper claws, glowing veins. He was losing himself, but then he heard Era's voice, not in his ears, but in his mind. Come back to me, she whispered. You're more than this. Jace stopped, panting. He looked at his bloody hands. Then at the enemy. One hybrid crawled toward him, injured. But Jace didn't kill it. He let it go. The others paused, confused. Jace stood tall again, his body returning to normal. He had won, not just the fight, but the war inside himself. The sky above roared as the Eclipse ship began to rise in the distance, its massive core glowing through the clouds. Jace looked up, his eyes steady now. It's time, he whispered, and he ran toward the final battle. Jace ran across the broken land as the Eclipse ship rose into the sky. Its massive body stretched like a dark moon above the ground. Lightning sparked from its engines, and the air trembled with its power. It was no longer sleeping. It was alive, Era. and the rebels reached the base of the ship first. The lower section had opened like a mouth, revealing a long tunnel glowing red. "This is the way in," Era said, holding the crystal tightly. "We must get to the core before the ship launches." Fully. Jace arrived moments later, covered in dust and blood. His steps were heavy, but his eyes were focused. "Let's finish this," he said. Together, they moved into the tunnel. Inside, the walls pulsed like veins, lights flickering with each step. It didn't feel like a machine anymore. It felt like walking inside a living thing. Era whispered, "The core is deep at the center. But be careful, Jace. The ship can feel you now." As they walked, the voice of control echoed all around them. "You were made for this," it said. "You were designed to protect us, not destroy us," Jace growled. "You didn't make me. I chose who I became." Turrets appeared from the walls, aiming at them. Jace jumped forward, moving like a shadow. He destroyed them with a wave of force from his hands. Era and the rebels moved ahead while Jace cleared the path. Finally, they reached the heart of the ship. A massive glowing orb floated in the air, wrapped in silver cables and red energy. The core pulsed like a heartbeat. Era stepped forward, holding the crystal. Suddenly, a circle of hybrids dropped from the ceiling, surrounding them. These were the strongest, their bodies nearly perfect, eyes glowing, faces calm, but empty. One of them stepped forward and spoke. "Give us the crystal," he said, "or die." Era looked at Jace. "You have to hold them off while I reach the core." Jace nodded, his eyes glowing bright blue. "I'll give you time." The hybrids charged, and Jace met them head-on. He moved like fire, striking with power and speed. But there were too many, and they kept coming. His body started to shift again, claws growing, skin glowing brighter. He screamed as the blood inside him boiled. Era screamed his name, "Jace!" He stopped for a second, breathing hard. The monster inside wanted to take over. He could feel its voice, cold, loud, hungry. But then, Era's voice came again. Not through sound, but through the bond. "Jace, you are not them. You are not me. You are you." Jace took a deep breath and focused. He forced his body back to normal. He smiled and stood tall. "I'm still human," he said. Even now, he unleashed one final blast of energy, knocking the hybrids back. They fell, unconscious, not dead. He had held back. Era reached the core and placed the crystal inside a glowing slot. Core began to spark, lights flashing wildly. Control's voice shouted, "Stop! You will kill us all." Era looked at Jace, tears in her eyes. "This will destroy the ship. And maybe me too." Jace ran to her, holding her hand. "Then I'll stay with you." But Era shook her head. "No, Jace," she said. "You need to live for both of us." She pushed him gently away. "Promise me you won't become the weapon. Promise me you'll live as yourself." Jace didn't want to let go, but he nodded. "I promise." Era smiled one last time, then closed her eyes as the crystal exploded with light. Jace turned and ran, the hallway falling apart behind him. The ship began to shake and scream like a dying beast. He reached the outside just as a huge blast of blue light burst through the sky. The Eclipse ship crumbled in the air, breaking into pieces and crashing into the sea. Silence followed, heavy and deep. Jace stood at the edge of the cliff, watching the smoke rise. His body burned, but he didn't care. He looked up at the stars. "Goodbye, Era," he whispered. "You saved me." Days later, the rebels built a small base on the coast. Jace helped them, using his hands, not his powers. Commander Riva came to him and said, "You could be a hero." Jace smiled. "I don't want to be a hero," he said. "I just want to be human." And from that day, the galaxy remembered him, not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as a man who made the hardest choice to remain himself.